What is digital transformation? Have you done it, or maybe you think you don't need it? By the way, getting the newest iPhone does not mean you and your business can tick the DT box. Globally, it's estimated that business spent approximately $1.2 trillion in 2019 on digital transformation, all looking for an edge in the digital economy. But it's not all about the tech. Joining us today to unravel this riddle of transformation and how much we need a strategy, 7 disciplines and tech wizardry to pull it all together is the Chief Expedition Officer himself, Mr. Doyle Bueller. Welcome, Doyle.
Hi, Angela. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Now, before we get to the really serious stuff, I just have to cover up on something very important. What is Chief Expedition Officer? What is Department Digital? And more importantly, when did you adopt the Australian colloquialism smarty pants?
Smarty pants.
Smarty pants.
Smarty pants. Yeah, look, honestly, I feel that we're in this stage amongst the chaos and that sort of thing where we need to take more direction and we need to sort of develop our businesses towards digital transformation, which I think we'll get into shortly. But the Chief Expedition Officer is what every business needs to become, right? That's the leadership role that says, hey, we have to be able to design a better future for our business, right? We need to future-proof against technology. And I don't mean against it, I mean, leveraging the technology type thing. We need to be able to understand that it's not an easy safari, go rent a ute and go and watch some tigers and zebras and that sort of thing, right? Like, digital is hard. It's difficult. It's been challenging. It's been around for 25 years and we still haven't seen a lot of results. The adoption rate is about 20%. So that's what the Chief Expedition Officer is getting that role straight to say we need to be able to design a proper digital future for our business, which is digital transformation.
So given that you're the tour guide on this trip, and when you're saying that there hasn't been a big adoption rate, we will get to that because I don't want to jump around too much because there's a method here that we're looking at. Are you surprised by that, the low adoption?
Oh, absolutely. Because when you number one, I think the other stat is 60% of businesses don't make it past year 5, and you really have to wonder. And then you see a lot of businesses failing. And this was even before COVID, like in December and January, there were a bunch of businesses that had failed. They couldn't survive the holiday season. And this is specific to Australia. There were quite a few businesses that they went into receivership. And I actually went and investigated them and looked at what were they actually doing with their digital platform. Were they using these pieces what I call a digital strategy, campaigns and social media and websites, and making sure all these pieces are humming together. And what I found was that 60% of them don't even have the basic level of digital adoption. And so then you look at a broader base and it's like around the world, it's actually like 20%. And I was like,
so the reason we find that strange, right, is that we assume that because there's the latest in tech out there, every which way you look, there's a gadget. I mean, my latest thing is, my sister-in-law bought a kettle that's got Wi-Fi, and she can turn on the kettle from her bed from the phone app. I mean, we're immersed in tech in all sorts of ways. When your fridge talks to you and tells you, you're getting fat or you need milk. But and given that's all there, it's quite surprising that we don't adopt that in business to streamline and make us all efficient and grow. Now, you talk about 7 disciplines of digital. We use the words, it's a mouthful, digital transformation.
It is.
But as you highlight, it's not all about the tech. There are other things that have got to come in. But let's look at what you mentioned earlier, the growth of companies. Now, if we look at penetration and adoption, you are talking there about the uptake, right?
The businesses that the businesses that actually have an enabled digital ecosystem and are using digital assets, right? So yeah, we need to be clear of what actual digital adoption is. It's not in today's day and age, it's in 2020, it's not just having a website, right? That's your entry point. So any business out there that has a website, you know what, good for you. But that doesn't mean that you're digitally adopted, right? That doesn't mean that you have that baseline of assets and an ecosystem that actually be able to work in it. So that's what's really important. It's looking at the other tools, other assets. Do you have quizzes? Do you have, automation? Do you have, proper structure in terms of how do you meet your customer in the digital space? And it doesn't matter if you're a service-based business or an e-commerce business, we all kind of face the same challenges. You have to have that digital ecosystem. You have to have those digital assets, and all that comes from a digital strategy. What are you doing specifically?
Can we just point out, though, that you don't have to have an e-commerce business to actually have digital transformation. So I think some businesses probably misunderstand that too, and thinking, well, I don't really sell products online, so I don't really need to worry about digital transformation. But that is one of the biggest myths that needs to be busted.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not simply about the technology. It's not. It's really how you use it. Like if you look at this big wave that's coming as well, the AI wave and the data wave and that sort of thing, and that's actually where a lot of businesses can start too. It's maybe not artificial intelligence, but it's looking at the data and understanding, okay, well, who is my customer and how are we engaging with them? How are we having that conversation and how are we bringing them along that journey? And a lot of it is pretty fundamental. It's not about technology. It's all more about how we can actually, enable that capability. You can work within your 10-mile radius if you're, a small business, but you know what, you have the technology, you have the capability, more importantly, to be able to work outside of that. You can work around the world. You can work in your 100-mile radius or 100 kilometers or across the country or around the world or whatever the case may be. So it's truly limitless. But it takes some work, and that's again why I call it now an expedition. Is that it takes some designing of this. You need to have your base camps. You need to have your team, your resources, your technology. You still need that, right? I'm not saying you can't go away without it, but
no. Well, you can't climb Everest without an oxygen tank.
Exactly right.
So you've got to have some tools. Now you also say that most businesses are missing three essential elements of digital transformation. What are those three elements?
Well, we've seen them really quite magnified, I guess, within the last 9 months because of the dramatic shift and because things have kind of been thrown out the window and that sort of thing. But fundamentally, it comes down to three things. And what I call your process. It's, do you have, a digital process that actually enables that? And when I mean that specifically, I'm talking about number one, are you creating an experience, a digital experience worth remembering, right? So, and are you able to deliver that experience on demand? And finally, are you able to sort of deliver that value that is so important? Because you can't just convert it to, oh, I'm going to sell books online. I mean, simple example, right? You have to look at what value are you actually providing. It's not about the books. It's about the education. It's about the training. It's about the reading. It's about the entertainment of a book. Right. If you look at the digital experience, one of the huge examples that have coming out is what I call, well, there's two of them actually. I don't know if we have time to talk about both of them, but there's the.
No, go ahead. Time's my problem. You keep going.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, in terms of developing a digital experience, you have there's the Netflix Disney Hamilton show. Right. Disney basically said, hey, you know what? We're going to be producing this show later. Let's actually just film it on location, on the stage, in the studio. They didn't create a Hollywood production. They actually took this play, right, live play, and actually developed a show behind it, right, that they can then broadcast to their specific Disney Plus channel. You look at a company like Cirque du Soleil, based out of Canada. They've went into receivership like it was back in May and June. And if you think about it, really, fundamentally, what is Cirque du Soleil? They're a spectacle, right? So why couldn't they have actually enabled that digital side of their business, transform their business dramatically? Because if you look at the content that they have, we're talking like tens of thousands of hours of shows from around the world and all this, and they could have become Netflix of spectacle.
So those are unusual examples that bring a little bit of clarification, because of course you wouldn't think on the surface that Cirque du Soleil would transfer. You would assume, no wonder they went into receivership. I mean, they were a live spectacle that you had to be there to feel the atmosphere, etc. But that's not the point. The point is that they should have had a digital transformation strategy, not just for resilience and a plan B, but for an additional revenue stream, even when times are good. So why wouldn't they have that? I mean, you had gyms going online, you had trainers going online, you had yoga instructors going online, and yet Cirque du Soleil couldn't do it?
Yeah, exactly. And the environment said that they can't have live events. So to me, that was critical to say, well, look,
Yeah.
you have an unimaginable amount of content available to you. Why aren't you
Correct.
actually using something with it? So you have to shift, you have to change, you have to adapt, right? And that's what's really important. They even have, it's not just about the show. They also have merchandise, right? That they sell at the show. And yes,
Exactly.
digital experience is at this stage, it is a little bit, it's not 100% there. It's definitely not the same as being live and in person, but given the circumstances, why not? And if you look at it, every business afterwards even could look at that and say, well, guess what? I connected with my audience from around the world. I've set that up. I've transformed. I've adapted. I've adopted. Now I have an audience
And
from,
expanded. That's right.
yeah,
So even when we do go back to being live and
yes.
virus free, we're still going to have, I hope that we've taken some lessons moving forward that we can incorporate them in a true resilience strategy. Because resilience, if you haven't already failed and learnt, doesn't mean anything because you don't have anything to base it on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point, is that businesses need to look further, a bit further. And again, that's where the expedition comes in. Can they take it a few steps further? The businesses that are adapting now to the fact that we have to have this conversation, behind Zoom, or it doesn't really matter what your platform, again, it doesn't matter what the tech is. The businesses that have said, yes, I'm going to do that, are positioning themselves so far in advance of the other companies that are saying, oh, we'll just try to ride this out. We'll just get through it, right? And so these
That's right.
companies are the ones that are going to make the difference coming up, are the ones that have grasped it and said, I need the tools to be able to enable this technology. And that's the problem. We're always catching up with technology. We're never going to actually be sort of that tech giant superstar, because businesses are enabling that, but we have to actually be able to use it and apply it and make it work for our business.
That's right. If you aren't actually adopting it and doing something with it and learning from it, even when there are other great discoveries and developments in tech, even when research and development brings about a new product, if it's not factored in, it could just sit on the shelf gathering dust, like a lot of people's business plans, I might add. You make a comment that transformation isn't organic and that it doesn't just happen. Obviously, we've said it several times now that it's not just about the tech. You talk about implementing a strategy and what you call a flight plan. Is that around the 7 disciplines that you also refer to?
Well, the 7 disciplines of digital leadership is what they are technically, and what that really outlines is that how do we? It's one piece of the puzzle. Like as I said, digital is difficult. You don't have to have a master's in it, but you do have to kind of master an understanding of it and what's working and what's not. Anyway, the 7 disciplines reflect around that to say, well, what do I really need to have in to be able to transform, and how do I put these pieces in place rather. And that's really important, just to understand the scenario of what are you doing. And again, you don't have to be the guru, you don't have to be the expert, you don't have to be the whatever, the digital marketing consultant or something like that. You don't need to do that, but you do have to understand how these pieces fit, right? You have to
I've got them here in front of me,
okay,
right?
well,
So strategy development. Of course you don't have to be an Einstein or superstar in any one area, but you need to sit down and go, right, I need to have a strategy around my digital transformation that's going to look at content deployment, makes sense. Social and sharing, how you're going to share and get your content out there. Branding, videos, visuals, again, another component. I think people understand separate pieces. They don't understand how they necessarily all come together holistically. Website alignment. We drop the ball, small businesses, SMEs in general, drop the ball on any one of those things and it falls apart very quickly. Sales value sequence, analytics and advertising. It's a plan right there. The strategy is right there in the 7 disciplines. For me, it was like a big aha moment as I was, writing them out to sort out the script for today. And I sat there and went, this is my checklist. I need to make sure I've got all these things happening and that they're all connected. So that's the secret, isn't it? Connecting all the pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the approach that I take is we kind of get caught of our head in the weeds, so to speak, head in the sand, whatever you want to call it. And we just, well, it's like, oh, well, I got to do a business online. So what do I need? Oh, I need a website and I need a Facebook page. And it's like, yeah, those are important, but how do you actually fit those together so that they're working, right? You're building a vehicle, right? I talk about the flight plan and that sort of thing. You are, in fact, building a trip from one end of the country or one end of the world to another. And most businesses need to realize that you can't just get in a car and go. I mean, you might get there, you might not, but how can you actually prepare? And if you have those disciplines to say, this is what I need to know, these are the pieces that I need. Again, you don't need to be an expert. You just have to understand how they fit together. You can get somebody to help you with strategy. You can get somebody to help you with website alignment. You can get somebody to help you with your sales value sequence and your campaigns and all that kind of thing. That's how you build your team, right? Is knowing where to put these teams. And that's kind of the shift that we need to make and understand that it's not business as usual. And again, trying to reframe it a little bit to say, look, this is an expedition. We need to be prepared. We need to go through certain base camps to be able to get there and continue on after, right? There's a rule of thumb, and I used to be a military pilot, and there's a rule of thumb that we typically used was the 60 and 1, right? If you're traveling 60 nautical miles, let's use kilometers forward, and you're 1 degree off, you're going to be 1 kilometer off of your target, right? So if you look at traveling from Sydney to Perth or wherever the case may be, Sydney to LA, like you're talking big distances, so you're not going to be even close, right? So you need to be able to adjust this route along the way, and that becomes your flight plan. So it's a simple way to sort of break things down.
In order to transform digitally and to be part of the digital economy, you need to have a plan and a strategy to execute. And
100%.
that fits right in with SMETV plan, which is click subscribe. So to everyone out there in YouTube land, you've already had your instructions. Use one of the 7 disciplines and don't forget about us. Now, Piedmont Studio, thank you for all that you do and the way that you make us look and sound. To the SMEA Association, what can I say, but you rock for backing us. To everyone out there, tips, tricks, comments, stories, etc., send them straight to me, news@smea.org.au. And if you need any more information on digital transformation, Doyle will be very happy to help you, and we'll put all his contact details in the content as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Doyle.
Thank you so much, Angela. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
See you next time. You too.
Take care. Bye.